Hello and welcome to the Managing Sprint 186 review. This was a regular 2-week sprint, but the time of the sprint has changed to accommodate new participants. So from different time zones. And this will probably be the time going forward of the sprint review. There's also some personnel changes that are happening, with this likely being my last sprint review that I'll be hosting, and as well as Kavya. Thank you for your prior contributions on that front. Okay, so on to the sprint review. So I will provide the overview. Kavya will update us in the UI, Adam on the providers, and Jason on the rest. And if he's not available, Adam will step in. So this sprint, we had an uptick in the number of pull requests opened, slight downtick in the number of pull requests merged. So we're kind of on normal pace here. So nothing unusual is going on. That's good. And in terms of the bug to enhancement ratio, we're clamping down the NightOrf release and working on the next release. So there's 40 enhancements and 16 bug fixes. And with that, we'll turn it to our attention to the UI.
Thanks, Oleg. This sprint total 16 PRs got merged across UI repos, 4 bugs, 7 enhancements, and so on. Next one. This is a bug. Charts have download image option and it's not working. I fixed that bug here. This bug fix applies to all the charts in UI. Next one. This is an enhancement. Jeffrey converted cloud volume backup forms, both create backup and restore backup to React from Angular. Next one. Gilbert converted generic object button forms such as like create button group, edit button group, and create button edit button forms to React from Angular. Melody converted cloud volume attach and detach volume forms to React from Angular in this PR. Next one. Jeffrey converted export PDF table to Carbon React. I think it was in HTML before. He converted to Carbon React to be consistent with other tables. Next one. I converted container provider dashboard cards to React from Angular. So now completely that page is in React. Next one. These are some of the technical debt items. First one is subnet edit form was using params for create and tweaking data to disable some of the fields in edit form. Gilbert eliminated all of that logic and used params for edit, which automatically disable fields in edit forms. And rest of the PRs are just like removing some stale codes, which are already converted before, so we just removed them. We just identified and removed them right now. I think that's all from UI. Over to Adam.
Thanks, Kavya. For providers this sprint, Gregor from the XLab team added some lifecycle operations to the physical servers model in support of the Cisco Intersite provider. We moved some common physical infrastructure inventory collections out of a number of providers and into core to reduce duplication and clean up some of that. Keenan added Ruby 3 keyword arg support for the inventory refresh gem. So we cut a new version that supports Ruby 3 to try to cut down on the number of unreleased gems that they're trying to get that branch green on. So this is actually released and we can start using it now. For Amazon, we updated the specs to dynamically check the count for flavors. This allows us to, rather than when we update the list of flavors, have to edit the specs to change the number that we're looking for. We go and we look into the YAML file so that we can be able to get the specs passing without any manual intervention, which is important for the next one. We use GitHub Actions now to update the flavors automatically. So we're running a scheduled cron GitHub Actions to pull down the list of flavors and create a pull request automatically. And so when that runs, the specs run, make sure everything's green, and then we can just merge it, and that should make it a lot easier for us to keep the list of flavors for Amazon up to date. Nasser added cloud database create and delete support for Amazon RDS type databases. Next slide. The IBM CIC team added a change to fetch the CPU speed from the server instance rather than the flavor. So on OpenStack, typically the CPU speed comes from the flavor, but on CIC, it actually comes directly from the VM object. And so they're having some issues with showing metrics properly because the CPU speed wasn't being collected properly. So they fixed that up for their CIC provider. Big one here for HMC, Caliste added the ability to collect VM and host metrics from HMC. So now you can see, all the nice pretty graphs for the HMC provider. They also added some more HMC specific reports to show some VM and host information in a specific HMC way. Next slide. And the Cisco Intersite provider is now included in the gem file. And so if you bundle update or update to any version now, you'll get that provider plugin to be shown as an option in the dropdown for the physical infrastructure providers. They also added support for server commission, decommission, and recommission operations. They're improving the display name for physical switches and improving the display for power operations. And I believe that's it for providers. Over to Jason.
All right, thanks, Adam. Adam added a change to add a script to collect logs from all appliances. We already had a script to collect from a single appliance, so this blasts out to all the appliances. And this goes toward the effort to get log collection out of the UI, which in turn goes to a bigger effort to get rid of appliance-specific code out of the application code, because most of that appliance-specific code doesn't work in the codified world. Users of appliances can instead just use this script to collect all the logs from all the appliances. Nasser added cloud database product features, going toward his cloud database work that you heard earlier. Keenan added cloud volume snapshot queuing methods. Joe bumped Rails for a number of CVEs. We'll continue to do this as new CVEs come out on Rails. And Adam added the ability to handle a missing database in the orchestrator endpoint. We found a weird, rare issue where during boot, the database could get created, but not, the database pod could start, but it may not have actually created the database due to some error. And the orchestrator entry point couldn't handle that case. So this handles that case in a more graceful way. For bugs, Adam fixed an issue where Rake EVM deployment status was failing with no database. That's similar to the handle a missing database and orchestrator endpoint. They go together. And Joe also added a fix for the fallout from deleting failed deployments, which was part of this whole some of the bugs that we found around the codification deployment. Adam added a fix to only capture metrics for supported container images. And finally, Keenan added a fix for exclusion validations that changed for Rails 6.1. Next slide, please. On the API side, we had a number of changes. Nasser added the delete and patch verbs to the cloud databases endpoint, and also the post verb to the cloud databases endpoint. Melody added attach, detach cloud volume actions. Keenan added options and DDF for non-CRUD actions. So for some actions need extra parameters, and we can get those parameters through the DDF description, which comes through options. Previously, we couldn't do non-CRUD actions, so this is a pretty useful change for most of the providers. Gregor added API support for server decommission and recommission. That's part of the Cisco Intersite work. And finally, Keenan added support for cloud volume snapshots as a sub-collection. Next slide, please. And last, I updated the bot to switch to GitHub Actions. At this point, all of the repos have been switched over. There's a handful that still need to be switched over, but they're less important and less related to the application. And that's it. Oleg?